What's good, Bolt fam? Welcome to the latest edition of Bolt Blitz Uncut. I'm your host, Booga Peters, joined by, of course, producer extraordinaire Kyle Nash in the background. We've got an incredible show for you tonight. We're joined by Fernando Ramirez of the Sporting Tribune, who's also the co-host of Compas on the Beat. And then after we're done picking his brain, we're also joined by the lovely, talented, and incredibly intelligent Amy Trask, the Princess of Darkness, CBS sports analyst. Cannot wait to have her on there. But before I sit here and yak at you guys for too long, let's go ahead and throw our guy Fernando into this studio and start getting right down to the nitty gritty. Fernando, Chargers camp and preseason's hot and heavy right now. You're there, boots on the ground. Let's go right into the running back room. And it's great to have you on the show, by the way. I know you're doing great because I just found out, and I think it's kind of corny that when everybody asks people on their show, the first thing you do is talk about how they're doing for 15 minutes. I know you're doing great because you're here, and it's a great place to be, brother. Fernando, tell us a little bit about that crowded running back room there. You've got all the names, obviously, first-round pick, Omari and Hampton. Najee Harris, is he blinky? Is he not? Does he see out of both eyes? Can he open both eyes? Then you have Kamani Vidal, Raheem Rocket Sanders, and then obviously Hassan Haskins, who looks primed to make it because of his special teams ability. What's going on with that running back room, and how do you see it shaking out when all is said and done?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a long time, so I'm definitely glad we were able to do this. The Najee Harris thing, I remember he put a picture out of a selfie on Snapchat, I think it was, of him, and people screenshotted it and put it on social media. I think he was trolling. I don't think he would do something like that if he can't really open his eyes. I just think right now it's the conditioning and everything that he's kind of getting back up to par. He hasn't done. Richie, thank you so much.
Let's go.
I think the thing is that he's working off to the side. As of right now, unless they're doing something where we're not.
They list him as RB1, and you know that.
Well, yeah, no, but unless he's doing stuff on the side where nobody's watching, which it can happen. I've been told by multiple players in the past that they do have stuff where these guys are working out, just nobody can see them. I'm not saying that they're having a practice, but like if he's doing stuff outside or whatever to get ready, then maybe, but maybe he's a candidate for the for IR as soon as they
some type of pup, maybe.
Yeah, pup IR gets the first 4 weeks out of the way, then he's eligible to come back. But again, this is probably one of the best running back rooms that they've had maybe since, I mean, if everything goes right, the Michael Turner, LaDainian Tomlinson, Darren Sproles kind of Chargers backfield. They haven't had that in a long time. I know everybody was very last year, everybody was like, okay, this is a different room. It's J.K. Dobbins, who was more of a home run hitting running back. Gus Edwards didn't materialize into what they wanted. And you had Kamani Vidal, who obviously had that really nice catch against the Broncos, and then you didn't really see much of him.
But disappeared after that.
Exactly. But Rocket Sanders, I think he has a real good chance to making it. The only thing is that I really believe, independently from everything, I think the Chargers are going to be very active on cut down day, the way you saw last year that they were pretty active. I kind of feel like they're going to be active trying to see how they can improve the team. But Omari and Hampton is a guy I think they're kind of hiding from everybody.
Right.
Really taken, like the Raiders have given Ashton Genty, I think 10 or more snaps, and you've kind of seen a little bit from him, and you've seen some stuff. With the Chargers, they've given this kid 4 snaps or 4 handoffs maybe, and that's it. And you saw a little bit of something, but I think they're kind of trying to hide him a little bit. But I definitely think that if Najee's healthy, if Omarion is healthy, and this running back room is healthy, I think it's one of the best that they've had in years. Najee's one of those guys that doesn't miss games. He's a guy that the Steelers could count on to get carries. The one thing about him, though, if you listen to his interview when he was before free agency, is he said, I don't think that we had a good offense. Like, we didn't have an offense that talked, that designed stuff. So he was kind of taking a shot at Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator. And that makes you think, well, a team like the Chargers, who Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh are very detail-oriented, he could be able to thrive in a running game like the one that the Chargers are trying to run. So I definitely think, again, if it's all said and done, I think the 3 backs are going to be Omarion, Najee, and Hassan Haskins. And then that 4th running back is going to be between Vidal and Sanders. I think that Haskins brings a lot special teams wise. And if you're going to make cuts elsewhere, especially players who happen to be on special teams. You're going to have to make up with it. And I think Hassan Haskins has proven his worth. I mean, he had that big run against the, I think it was the Broncos. Yeah, the Broncos.
That 70-yarder, that catch and run. Yeah.
That was great. So, and that's, by the way, that play reminds me a lot of what I think Herbert and Omarion, something that Omarion brings, where Herbert's going to have to be running around. He might have to pitch it. And I think Omarion's a guy that he could take something like that and do exactly what Hassan said. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement, I know, within the building about what this running back group could be for this team.
Well, and I think there should be. And what's ironic for me, because I haven't talked to you about this yet, but my favorite player in the entire draft class was Omarion Hampton.
Oh, really?
So to see him fall and actually go to the Chargers again, the last time that
I didn't think he'd make it past the Broncos.
No, not for sure. And that's where we were at too. And then as soon as Denver didn't take him, I was just like, this is a real thing. But then, of course, Chargers made us all a little nervous. They're kind of waffling at the end. Were they actually going to make that trade with Philadelphia? That's a story for another day. But on the running back room, I think what people are overlooking is everybody wants to scrap Haskins from their 53. Haskins does too much that Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman like, whether it's the dirty stuff as far as pass pro or anything as far as the stuff for Fickens on special teams. He's just not going anywhere. But it is going to be intriguing and interesting to see what happens, whether it is Kimani Vidal or Rocket Sanders. And man, I was a big Rocket Sanders fan coming out of the draft, and the fact that he went undrafted and ended up a Charger, I really thought he had a shot, but it's going to be tough for them to squeeze him in, especially with everybody else that they have going on, everything else they have going on at all these different positions. Yeah. Speaking of battles, and not necessarily crowded, but the quarterback 2 battle between Trey Lance and Taylor Heineke. When they signed Trey Lance, I didn't think it necessarily was a throwaway move. But here we are, and it looks like, Trey Lance has clearly outperformed Taylor Heineke. I'm not sure that necessarily means that he's going to be quarterback 2, but how do you see this thing playing out? And is there some real hope that Trey Lance could be QB2 for the Chargers?
I think I threw away the Hall of Fame game because everybody got very excited, but I'm kind of like, those are Detroit's they're mostly third string guys. So it's what I've seen the last 2 games that I really wanted to see what Trey Lance would look like. Taylor Heineke hasn't looked good in either one of these games. Nope. And Trey Lance, you saw a little bit more of him. You see the kind of pocket presence. And then I think his decision-making has improved slightly. Like, I remember there was a play where the Rams kind of collapsed the pocket. He looked to his right and he noticed open field and he took off running. The only thing is that I think there's times where, and he said it, the coaching staff has said it. I've heard stuff from the Cowboys and the 49ers where they said the same thing. Sometimes his first instinct is to run. And that's the thing that he needs to get better at, is stay in the pocket, wait, scramble around to make a play or to get out of like Mahomes. Mahomes really uses it, gets out of the way, sees if he has anything. If not, tuck tail and run. But that's kind of the thing with Trey. But QB2, I think right now, obviously, he is in the lead. My only problem is that, regardless, if Justin Herbert's hurt, you're kind of screwed.
You're SOL any? Oh, we want on here, baby. We
Taylor Heineke. Well, I ain't trying to. Yeah, but Taylor Heineke has. That's the thing. Taylor Heineke's proven in the past he can win games. Trey Lance hasn't. So that's where the Chargers are really going to have to sit down and analyze. Should we take the risk and let Trey Lance be quarterback 2 and we cut Taylor Heineke to save room for a 4th running back or a 6th corner, or should we just keep all 3? In my opinion, I think they're going to keep all 3 and just kind of decide game in game. Now, I wouldn't be surprised, and I know this is crazy, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a game where Jim doesn't throw him in there at quarterback and does a designed run with him or something crazy like that. But then the problem is, and I thought about it also when I was watching them during practice, I'm like, can you imagine Trey Lance fumbles, it gets returned for a touchdown. Herbert is going to look at Harbaugh and be like, you better never do that again.
Never again.
So I know in the past, from what I've seen, Herbert isn't a big fan of the Wildcat plays because I've seen them use them before in the past, and he wasn't a fan of those. So a guy as competitive as Justin, he's going to want the ball in his hands on every play. So, but again, I'm just saying from what we saw, because he used to do that with Colin Kaepernick. He would bring him in, he'd have him do run designs or stuff like that. Now, on the most critical play against the Saints, he had Alex Smith do the quarterback end around, and he scored. But again, exactly. So I definitely think right now Trey Lance is quarterback too, but I see a scenario where they keep all three of those guys and they decide get different games. Trey Lance QB2, Heineke's QB3, and they kind of go interchange them like that because you always want that emergency quarterback situation. And I think the Chargers they're not going to pull anything crazy and keep 4 like Cleveland, but I definitely see them keeping 3.
And Fernando, I got to jump in real quick. First of all, thank you. As somebody who regularly, well, I shouldn't say regularly, but is currently hosting the Duval Dive on the Believe Network with Travis
Duval.
I'm glad you're not doing this Mac Jones BS-esque stuff where all like, oh, look, it's a quarterback competition. Stop it. A, B. As somebody who's actually a Niners fan, doing a Chargers fan, and doing a Chargers show and a Jaguars show, I made the statement on this show about Trey Lance is that we don't really know what he fully is yet.
No.
Because he hasn't had time to develop. So you buy that theory.
Yeah. No. I do. I think, and see, I think Anthony Richardson's going through the same thing where they don't know their identity as a quarterback. They've been thrown into these situations. Like I still remember when Trey Lance got drafted, the first game they're playing Chicago, he gets hurt. He's at a strip club. He doesn't fly back with the team that night. And everybody's like, oh, what's he doing? This, that. He's immature. He's a young kid. Like he doesn't know what he is. He only played 1 year of college football and it was during COVID. Anthony Richardson wasn't the starter the year that he played with with Florida. He was the backup quarterback. He got thrusted into the starting position. So some of these guys, and look, I'm going to be completely honest. I think they need to go to rehab, and it's the rehab of the Sean McVay. Like I could see Anthony Richardson ending up a Ram and Sean McVay sits him and kind of like shows him like Baker Mayfield needed that. Other quarterbacks in the past have needed that quarterback rehab, whether it's been with Kyle Shanahan, with him, with Kevin. Well, we're going to see what Kevin O'Connell's quarterback rehab is if Daniel Jones goes into the Colts and does well. Now we're going to see what Jim Harbaugh's quarterback rehab is like. So I just think people need to have patience with these young quarterbacks, sit them down and be like, look, this is how you read a defense. This is how you analyze a defense. This is what they're showing. This is when they're trying to BS you. Like Jared Goff didn't know how to read a defense, and you saw it play out in that Super Bowl where Bill Belichick, as soon as the microphone got clicked off, Bill Belichick was switching guys around, making guys shift over. So I think patience is, and we're not. We live in a generation of what have you done for me lately? And with these quarterbacks, that's why they get thrown to the side so easily, because people don't take the time to show them, because everybody is, if not, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. Well, Shanahan, McVay, Harbaugh, those guys are not going to get fired anytime. They'd have to pull something crazy to get fired. So I think patience with these young quarterbacks is something that a lot of teams need to have, especially when they haven't played that much. That's why Arch Manning, 24 games, his family's telling him, we want you to play 24 games, because
I love the way they're handling that.
I think it's perfect. I know the kid wants to probably wants to flash, and especially if they win the national championship this year, he's going to be like, I want to go. They're going to be like, no, you do not want to go. Look what's waiting for you. The Saints, the Browns. You don't want to go.
And by the way, it's not like he's losing that much money as those that preceded him.
No, and I could see him pull a WWE. Well, not even a WWE. I could see him pull an Eli and be like, I'm not going to play for this team, that team, and that team. I'm only going to play for this, that, blah, blah. That's why I think the Rams secretly are loading up to get ready for that draft to go up and grab Arch Manning.
Interesting.
Last point, I'll come in off the top rope with, you mentioned quarterback rehab and Alex Smith, not previously. Do we not give Harbaugh that opportunity to be this guy? Perhaps?
Yeah, no, you're right. I completely forgot about that. So yeah, Harbaugh's done his own quarterback rehab in the past. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
For me, the way that I look at it, especially when you talk about Trey Lance and Taylor Heineke, to me, Heineke's already been in the system for a year, so he kind of has that leg up for him. The performance of Trey Lance has kind of vaulted him in the eyes of Chargers fans and perhaps everybody out there in NFL land, which also, in my mind, should hopefully tip Joe Ortiz off to, if there are any quarterback-hungry teams or anybody who's concerned about somebody banged up, Trey Lance is going to garner more in a trade, I would imagine anyway, than Taylor Heineke would. Even though Taylor Heineke has kind of shown a little more in the past, I think Lance has been exciting enough and done just enough to where there's just enough on tape for somebody to say, and this happens all over the NFL, I can do something with that guy, or I can fix him.
If AJ Smith was able to trade Charlie Whitehurst, clipboard Jesus, for a second round pick to the Seattle Seahawks, I'm sure Joe Ortiz can make Trey Lance look in a Trey Lance trade look entertaining. But again, I really think that they're just gonna try and keep him and develop them and see what they got in him. Obviously, Justin's only 26 years old, so there's nowhere that he's gonna be going anytime soon. But I just think that maybe in a year of under this system, teams could get trigger happy and be like, you know what, maybe Trey Lance, we should give him another. He does look different than that quarterback that threw 5 picks last year against the Chargers.
Oh, I was gonna say against the Bolts.
3 of them going to my ex-high school buddy Tony Jefferson. So we went to high school together.
That's amazing.
So it's funny because when we're in the locker room, like Tony will
put him on your 53.
I did actually. Yeah, I do have him on my 53.
I do too now.
It'd be sacrilegious if I didn't, but Tony always tells people, we went to high school. So like Cam Hart and Tarheeb last year were like, was he an asshole in high school? And I start laughing. I was like, Tony's the exact same guy he was in high school. I was like, he's still the same great guy. Yeah. So it's pretty cool that I get to cover him every day. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I definitely think that they're gonna. They'll probably dangle Trey out there, but I think it's going to be more of like, we're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, see what we got and do that.
And I don't see a problem with that, especially considering what the offensive line consists of, because boy, as I keep telling the chat, the Bolt Blitz group chat, it's going to be a long year this year. As soon as Slater went down, I mean, that changes the whole physical makeup of the offensive line, but we're not going to do too much offensive line talk. We're actually going to shift gears. And let's just go to a guy that I actually did mock him to the Chargers, but it's been kind of a doom and gloom situation since he got there. Inside linebacker, Junior Colson. What in the world has been going on? The reason that I pose this question to you is because you're somebody that, though I haven't worked with you in a decade, and we haven't really gotten into it live on the show, but you're someone that I trust vehemently. And I just really want to kind of get a vibe of what last year was like for him. What was going on with him? Was he just really out of shape, or was it a not understanding of the defense? And now that we fast forward to now, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen anything that really impressed me to where I think that, oh boy, he's on the right track to really making a difference, much less actually pushing for a second spot in that group. How do you feel about him? Tell me the story.
It seems like Marlowe Wax looks more comfortable in this defense than Junior, and I'm not saying that as like a knock or anything. It just kind of feels like that. Last year, he was playing catch up because if we remember, he had appendicitis.
The appendicitis thing, we know about that. Sure,
he didn't play for a while. It took him a little bit to kind of get going. Physically, it seemed like they kind of threw him fire to see what they had. I remember the game against Arizona, where he didn't look comfortable at all. And I remember I think he was the one that was running with Kyler Murray. He had a chance to kind of hit him out of bounds. Kyler like sped right past him. So yeah, it's been a little rough for him. And you talk to the coaches, Navarro Bowman, I remember in minicamp is like, no, he looks a lot more comfortable. He looks like he's ready to go, but he just hasn't done it. He hasn't made any plays yet during training camp that you're like, oh yeah, look, here he is, or he's made a play. And if you notice right now, it's the same thing as last year. It's Deion Henley, Denzel Perryman, and Troy Dye right behind him. And they brought Delshon Phillips, who it looks like he could possibly, I mean, obviously he hasn't had much in training camp because he's been on the PUP, but
he just came off the list, correct?
Exactly, yesterday.
He's active now.
Yeah, he's another special teams guy that they're really excited about. But he's another guy that could push him for a spot. So, yeah, he hasn't looked comfortable. I saw him, I remember on Saturday, he was in there like late in the game, and it's kind of like you don't want – same thing with Jazir Taylor. You don't want to be in there late in the game like that. That's not a good look. So, yeah, I think I don't think they'll cut him or anything because he's obviously a third-round pick. But I think I think the team has to be questioning stuff with him because, oh, wow. because they have to be questioning stuff with him because he should kind of have a cheat code in a sense. Like he should have known this defense. He should be coming in and he should be he should have
worked
been
with
knowing.
Minner at Michigan. I mean, you think
Exactly.
it's built into him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I thought. I thought right away he was going to be one of the guys that I thought Ladd and Joe would be good because I remember when I was in South Bend, everybody was talking about Joe and how good Joe was and everything. And then I'd watch him during practice and you're like, oh shoot, this guy actually is really freaking good. And so I knew how good those guys were, but I thought Junior was going to match their productivity and it was going to be all three of them being talked about. And he just hasn't lived up to it. So again, he's a draft pick. So I think I'm going back to like my Telesco years, but I think he will stay on the team. But the team has to be really looking at him and being like, is there other guys that maybe we should go for? But again, I same thing that I said with the quarterbacks. I think it needs to happen with him. I think they need to be patient with him a little bit. And that's why they brought back Troy Dye also, is because I think they want to be patient. They want to be able to watch them and see what they're able to do with him.
Love Troy Dye. Really love everything he does.
He's very underrated.
Name drop him. He's super underrated. He's somebody that I feel that Chargers fans should feel confident anytime he steps in the lineup. Folks, you're listening to Bull Blitz Uncut. We're talking with Fernando Ramirez of the Sporting Tribune and also co-host of Compass on the Beat. Right before we get you out of here, and we're joined by Amy Trask, let's lock this thing up with that battle you kind of started to inch into a little bit earlier. That cornerback room, it is crowded. Without talking about the obvious guys, the usual suspects, when you look at Ja Taylor, Dean Leonard, Nico Reed, Eric Rogers, obviously Purchase and Triquise Bridges, there's a lot of heads in the house, but I just don't know how many of them are here to actually make their names as far as coming out on the roster. We've talked about them being thin at a couple other spots where they're possibly going to be cutting and having to be real finicky when it comes to those spots. The cornerback room crowded. Where do you see that kind of going in? And who's the starting three, by the way?
Starting three, I think is going to be Donta Jackson, Tarheeb Still, and Cam Hart. I think Ben is going to be right behind them. I know. It seems like for some reason, they're really excited about him. And then I think there's 4 or 5 guys competing for one spot. I think it's going to be 5 corners. So Nico Reed gave up the game-winning touchdown obviously assignments. We don't know whose assignment was what, but it looked like he was the one that kind of gave up that touchdown.
Oh, sure.
On Saturday night. But then Ja was still playing late in the game. Dean's hurt. Eric Rogers is hurt. Like there's a lot of I'm more of like a negative guy. Like I look at like the negatives more than I do the positives. For right now, I'm still gonna say it's Ja, but it looks like it's kind of teetering. I think like obviously he does a lot on special teams. I just think where he's really hurt is in the games, and I mean obviously.
So Nando, hold on. Is his prowess and his ability on special teams enough to keep Jasir Taylor on the squad? Because I feel like that's the question weighing on everybody's minds. Because half the fan base wants to cut him, the other half is saying, "Oh, there's no way that's going to happen at all," because he's the best gunner that Ficken has.
Well, I mean, he is a really good gunner, and I feel like sometimes they'll keep a guy just because of their special teams. Because last year I thought the Chargers had one of the best special teams in the NFL. And the thing that Ja does is he's always there at the right place at the right time to like move a guy straight into the punt returner and then causes a fumble or stuff like that. So I think they really like that. The only thing is he has been a liability at times at corner. I remember last year on that 4th and 1, T. Higgins scores that long touchdown, and who's trailing right behind him is Ja. So they're going to need to decide what I don't know if Nico's done enough. I think Nico, look, and I'll leave it to you guys like this. I have seen in practice, I saw Nico do well against Herbert, against Trey, against Taylor, and against DJ. All 4 quarterbacks in the first few days of practice before he got hurt. Nico always had a play that stood out, or he would bat the ball down, or he had good coverage. So that's going to be the thing. It was what they saw in practice enough to say Nico deserves to be here? Because I saw that they like Keandre. It sounds like Keandre might be playing a little bit of special teams with these guys. So that's where the Chargers are going to have to decide what's what. But I think Nico's done a lot in camp. I just don't know if that's just my camp eyes telling me this kid has something and he might be able to do something, or if it's like camp's lying to me and it's like, well, that's the only thing I've seen, because we haven't seen him in joint practices. I take more out of joint practices than I do preseason games. So the fact that we haven't seen them in any joint practices this year kind of sucks, because last year I remember Puka came across. He got the end around from Matthew Stafford. Alohi came in and nailed him. And I was like, oh, shoot. And like that's Sean McVay ran over, yelled something at Alohi. Alohi yelled something back at him. Puka was hurt. And I was like, wow, this defense is going to be really good. Like they stopped. They didn't score one touchdown on them. Joey had 2 sacks. Khalil had 2 sacks. Like that defense just looked really good. And this year we didn't get to see it. But I think there's 4 guys competing for that 5th spot. And as of right now, I'm going to lean Job, but I would not be surprised if Nico ends up making. I think they're going to try and stash Eric because he is still on crutches. I think they're going to try and stash Eric because they like him. He's 6'2". He's an aggressive kind of corner. I think they're going to like him. Bridges, I think, ends up being the sacrificial lamb, and
he's the odd man out, huh? He's kind of gone.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad during practice, and
we saw it live in the preseason games too.
Tyler Shook was able to get that touchdown on him. So yeah, that's kind of the same thing you saw on that play. Has kind of been what we've seen at times during camp. So yeah, it's been a little rough.
Fernando, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it's been for me to actually reconnect with you. We'll talk a lot in the coming months. Hopefully I can bother you to come back on here again. Before we kick you off real quick and welcome on the Princess of Darkness, Amy Trask, tell everybody where they can find your stuff, please, man. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, no, anytime. I was about to give the podcast handle. My bad. At Real F Ramirez.
You can do that too. Don't you dare hide from pimping your stuff, my guy. Come on now.
I appreciate it. At Real F Ramirez on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'm even doing more on TikTok nowadays. So I've had fun doing that kind of stuff. And Compas on the Beat is our podcast. It's Gilbert Manzano who covers the NFL for SI and myself. My brother is on there, and then one of Gilbert's friends that has now become my brothers and I is a good friend as well. It's the 4 of us doing that show. So yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of good stuff coming up, and we have some cool people lined up in the next couple of weeks. So
you gotta tell Dan I said what's up, man.
We were talking about you today. We were talking about you this morning, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's when we went to the Alpine." I was like, "Yeah." And then they had a meetup at Tilted Kilt. I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yep." He's like, "I remember that," because he was only like 13 or 14 at the time.
I know he was young. He'd come in the studio and hang out with us and everything. It was great.
I know. Yeah. So that's why everybody says, what's the benefit of like your brother being 4 or 5 years older than you? He's like, he used to introduce me to like the older girls. So I used to be like, oh, hey, how are you doing? So,
way to go. Laughing,
but
you tell him I said what's up. Appreciate you,
man. Appreciate you. I'm glad you guys are back. Both Blitz. Shout out to you guys, and much love always. And yeah, whenever you need me, don't hesitate. I got you.
That's what I like to hear. And I do want to say this real quick while we have Fernando here as he's getting ready to sign off. One of the things we did talk about, and we'll make this short and sweet, it's a little tough being a part of Bolt Blitz without Thomas Powell here, but a big RIP out to our boy Thomas. We're trying to do this again for you, buddy, but Fernando brought that up during the pre-show, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. So I had to make sure that you brought up the big TP.
That's my guy. He love Thomas. He's one of one, truly. So what do you see from the team this year? Oh, Thomas, let me explain to you. I remember that. That's my guy. So appreciate you. Much love, obviously. And yeah, the season's upon us. I can't believe we're already back. So definitely exciting times.
Well, and hey, get used to being on here. We're going to have a blast. I can't wait to have you back. Guys, that's Fernando Ramirez of the Sporting Tribune and co-host of Compass on the Beat. Let's get right to her, and thank you so much for your patience. We've got her via audio right now. The CBS sports analyst, the Princess of Darkness, the author of You Negotiate Like a Girl along with Mike Freeman. Also, her heavy involvement with the big three will be talked about tonight, Amy Trask. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing tonight?
I am well, and thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to join you.
Well, we're glad that we got everything figured out, and it's so nice to have you take the time to be here with us. The good news is like I told you in the pre-show, I've got an amazing producer in Kyle, and he takes all the wicked button pushing away from me being concerned, don't you, Kyle?
Well, I just to be clear, I heard Princess of Darkness. Is this why I have this picture?
Absolutely.
Well, and you beat me to the punch about Kyle, because without Kyle letting me do this by audio only, and without his patience and letting me get all hooked in, it could have been a disaster. So thank you, Kyle.
That means thank you, Amy. Somebody who's appreciated your craft. Hearing that means something else. I'm gonna go over here and do a dance while Booga talks to you. So
I'm over here dancing myself, but let's do a different kind of dance, actually. And though this is a Chargers show, your Las Vegas Raiders happen to be in the AFC West, and we've got a brand new head coach there, so to speak. Brand new to the Raiders, obviously not to the NFL. Pete Carroll takes over. You've got a brand new quarterback in Geno Smith. Obviously, they drafted Ashton Genty, and then Brock Bowers is now going into his sophomore campaign. What's the excitement level like in Raiderland, and how optimistic is everything out there?
I think the excitement level is high. I think that's as it should be. And I think there is optimism, as there should be. And, you mentioned we're talking AFC West, and yes, this is a Charger-focused podcast. Let me tell you something about the AFC West, and I believe this applies to all divisions. Competitors on game day, you want to kill each other during the game, and colleagues on all other days. The relationships I had with Alex Spanos and Dean Spanos, with Pat Bolin, with Lamar Hunt and Clark Hunt, we were colleagues when it wasn't in game. Sure enough, in game, you're playing one another, you want to strangle one another. But on all other days, you work together and you're colleagues. And as to the AFC West, I think it's one of the most exciting divisions in football this season.
I couldn't agree more as far as the excitement surrounding the AFC West. It's one of those things where, as a Chargers fan, it's not that difficult to say this anymore because it's been true my entire life. The NFL is better when the Raiders are playing good football. I don't know if anybody in Chargerland would agree with me, but I'll tell you right now, if you look over the landscape, the timeline of the NFL, the heyday and the strongest years, you'll notice that the Raiders are one of those teams that are constantly pushing towards the top. And I really do feel like they're kind of climbing and inching their way towards that. Really don't know what's going on with the defense there, but the offense is terrifying as somebody who really appreciates offense and what they have at their disposal there regarding the drafting of Genty, and then obviously Brock Bowers again going into his sophomore campaign. Sticking with the AFC West, everybody and their dog is trying to say that the Chiefs have started to fall off. This is the year that they finally come back from the top of the mountain. They're down from the pinnacle. Amy, we talked a little pre-show, but do you think that the talking heads out there and the folks out there that are predicting that the Chiefs are going to come back down to earth and maybe not be a top team any longer, do you think there's any truth or credence to that, or is everybody overreacting?
Well, look, every team is one injury away from, a horrific season. So I will note that not just about the Chiefs, but about every team. The Chiefs are a very, very good team. Extremely good head coach, one of the best head coaches in the league, and an extremely good quarterback, one of the best in the league. I would say both Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are extraordinarily good. But it's a very good division this year, I believe. I think the Chargers will be improved. I think the Raiders will be improved. I think the Broncos will be improved.
Yeah.
So even if the Chiefs don't slide at all as to the Chiefs, the fact is you're playing everyone in your division twice, as you well know. And if everyone in the division is better this year, it's a harder division to win.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be heartbreaking, I'm sure, to some degree here and there, but I'm really excited for it. I know that my son, just leading up to this, looking at the Chargers' beginning schedule, they'd literally start off Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, their first three games. And, he kind of said, what's the advantages and the disadvantages to playing that many division games right off the bat. And I said, well, you're going to figure out who your team is right away. That's for sure. And somebody out of those 3 teams is going to have an opportunity to establish a quick start, if at all possible. We're talking with Amy Trask, Princess of Dark, here on Bolt Blitz Uncut. Amy, obviously you worked hand in hand and side by side with Al Davis. And I think one of the things that kind of gets lost in the Al Davis mythology is people tend to forget that he actually started out with the Chargers when he was an LA Charger. Was there anything about Al that he had said to you about his time there that stood out to you? Or was there ever a Chargers player that he happened to mention to bring up either positively or negatively that you just said, yeah, that was a guy that Al talked about?
Well, he cherished his time with the Chargers, and he did speak of it often. We talked of Sid Gilman, we talked of Chuck Noll, and of course, Lance Allworth. And the history of Al rushing onto the field and signing Lance before someone from the other league could sign him. Lance invited Al to present him in a number of instances. So yes, we talked about the time he spent with the Chargers, the relationship he maintained with the Chargers. And, when Alex Spanos bought the team, he developed a relationship with Alex that lasted for decades, and with Dean as well. So as I said, colleagues when they were off the field, opponents on the field. But yes, he spoke wonderfully of his years with the Chargers.
Yeah, we always wonder, because the rivalry has been so heated over the years, and you've seen some crossover when it comes to free agent signing, whether it be with the Chargers or the Raiders or whatever. But it was always something that fascinated me when my father would talk to me about the game of football and the Chargers and the Raiders rivalry, because Al was one of the very few Raiders that he had any respect for or held in any type of high regard. And I had made a comment that was out of bounds one time about Mr. Davis, and my father quickly corrected me and just said, he may be a Raider, but in this house, that man's done more for professional football than either of us ever will. So it definitely straightened me out as far as to my level of respect for him. And it's just kind of cool to hear, that he had positive things to say. And of course, I mean, that story about him trying to beat other clubs to the punch to sign Lance Allworth, that is lost. That is a very fun story. I'm so glad that you brought it out. So Davis is considered, one of the GOATs of football because of everything he brought to the game. Speaking of NFL GOATs, Tom Brady now is a member of the Raiders. And I remember when it was being floated around out there in the NFL Twitter sphere that he may be trying to find a team that he wanted to get interested in, and it could be the Raiders, and I was heartbroken that it was the Raiders. What have you seen from his involvement so far? And what's it like to have Tom Brady, the Raider, as far as you're concerned?
I have no ill will whatsoever to Tom Brady. When Tom first expressed interest or showed an interest in the Raiders, people asked me, was I upset? Was I still thinking of that game? Did I not want Tom to be a part of it? And I said, and I'll say again, I hold no ill will to Tom Brady. Tom Brady did in that moment of that game, and we all know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
He did what every fan would want the quarterback of his or her team to do. Tom did nothing wrong. Now, if you want to have a conversation about the officials, that's a different story. But, and now, by the way, your lines, my lines will all light up with Patriots fans telling me, it wasn't a fumble. It was. Bottom line, I hold no ill will whatsoever towards Tom. He did what every fan wants their quarterback to do in that moment.
Say it, Kyle, say it.
Well, yeah, and I'll add this too, Amy. Like, he's got all these social media videos out there too, admitting now at this point it is a fumble. How can you hold it against him at this point?
Right.
Are you guys trying to make me all sad? Let's move on. Let me say one thing about Al Davis, because you mentioned him in the story you told about your dad. Touched my heart. I owe my career to the fact that he was willing to hire a girl, because I was a girl. I was in my early 20s, but he hired me at a time when the discussion about women in sports wasn't even a discussion. That which we're discussing now about the hiring practices, those weren't even topics back then. He hired Tom Flores, Then, and I'm doing this in order chronologically, not in order of importance. He hired Tom Flores, then he hired me, then he hired Art Shell.
Or shall,
Whether
yeah.
whether you're a Raider fan or not, whether you loved Al or not, if you're being intellectually honest, recognize that this is someone who hired without regard to race or gender or any individuality, which has no bearing on whether we can do a job. And he did it decades before it was a topic of regular discussion. So, I owe my career to the fact that he did that.
No, it's great to honestly hear you give him his props, and you negotiate like a girl. Actually, on the back of the book, one of the things that I found so much respect for you out of is you mentioned that you never really even looked at you doing the job as a girl as you being a girl. It was just you doing the job, and I think that really inspired my daughter a lot, and I think it could inspire a lot of women or just young people out there, or just anybody trying to get it done. In your mind, it wasn't about gender, it wasn't about anything. It was just about you were good enough to do that job and get it done to the best of your ability, and you were the best suited individual for that job. And here you go, like you said, the NFL at that time. My goodness, Amy, who are we trying to kid? That wasn't exactly a welcome thought. And here Al had so much forward thinking to say, don't care what you like, what you look like, who you are, your gender, whatever. Can you help us win football games? And it kind of just lends itself to the whole just win, baby. There's a lot of respect that comes out of that, even from this Chargers fan.
Wow. And I'll throw something in about the Chargers. When I started my job with the Raiders and I walked into my first NFL owners meeting, I was the only woman in that room. And that was the case for a number of years. And then guess who joined us? Jeannie Bonk from the Chargers.
Hey!
One thing about NFL owners meetings, and it sort of, if this reminds you of junior high, it's probably because it's like junior high or maybe elementary school. Everybody sits in the same chairs every single meeting. You have the same chairs. And I used to say to people with the league office, why don't you just let us put name tags on the chairs or place cards so we don't have to rush in here and nab our seats, since we're all sitting in the same damn seats every time anyway. Well, the reason I bring that up is from the start of my career until the time I left the Raiders, we sat across from the Chargers. So, when I started my career, I was the only woman in that room, and the Chargers hired Jeannie, and she does a phenomenal job for that organization. And we sat right across from the Chargers, and boy, oh boy, did we have a good time.
I love hearing that. No, I really do love hearing that. It's funny because one of the first conversations I actually had with Mrs. Trask privately in DMs was about the fact that my mother, not my father, who was the football coach, she actually taught me more about reading coverages and how to find depths of the cornerbacks to be able to tell if it's a cover 2, a cover 3, and whatever. And the full circle of all this coming around now to having you on my show, I can't thank you enough for being here. But before we get you out of here, let's talk about what you and I have talked about on Twitter, I don't know, 15 or 20 times over the last 10 years, but I've never gotten your top 5. We talk ice cream, folks. Amy and I both have a little bit of a sweet tooth when it comes to ice cream. And I'm going to set you up here by giving my top 5 first. And I'm just going to tell you right now, at 5, root beer vanilla float ice cream. It's absolutely delicious, underrated. Lactose-free vanilla Breyers. I know that now because of some GI stuff. Peanut butter cup is number 3, strawberry cheesecake number 2, and the best ice cream in all of the land. And you can't get it most places, mostly just in the Midwest. Blue Moon by Hudsonville. It's made from almond extract. I don't get it. I can't tell that it's blue because I'm colorblind, but it is the best ice cream in the land. Amy Trask, you are now directly in the spotlight. I need your top 5 ice creams, or at least talk to me about ice cream.
Okay, well, first of all, I will talk to you about ice cream because you are a weirdo like my husband. I mean weirdo in a loving sense, but really vanilla. I mean, I have in the house on any given moment, and I could walk over to my freezer right now. And if I was on camera, and maybe next time, if you ever have me back, I will go on camera.
We'll beg you to be back.
So then I could open the freezer and show you that I have at least 11 probably 12 different flavors of ice cream. And
No, you don't.
Oh, I do. And I always have to, and I've got great flavors. I mean, I like flavors that have chips and bits and nuggets and swirls and whirls. And then I have to have vanilla for my weirdo husband who likes vanilla. Who eats vanilla ice cream? I hope to God you at least put things on your vanilla.
I do.
Like
A lot of
sprinkles and toppings and whipped cream.
Strawberries, bananas.
And okay, really? Now I do like flavors. I like them all. I do like them with chips and bits and nuggets and pieces and things in them. I'm not a big fan of just smooth flavors that have nothing in them, like vanilla. So, if we ever have ice cream together, you come on over, you and my husband can eat the vanilla, and I'll have all the other flavors.
And everyone will be none the happier.
Right. We should actually do that. We should have an ice cream party at some point.
I've got to get out there. There are so many different parties I need to have, and an ice cream one definitely needs to be on there for sure. Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And you asked or suggested as though we weren't going to beg you anyway, but please do us a favor. We'll get in your ear about it, but be back on this show. Join us as our special Raiders correspondent. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hold on. I hate to be this guy, and this makes me a bad producer officially, but Amy, I don't know if you see behind me, but my Aaron Evans original painting of me as an offensive lineman, your ice cream choices are officially approved by a fat man.
Well, first of all, I have so much respect for linemen because as I learned from the start of my career, most games are won or lost at the line of scrimmage. And you know what? First of all, it would be a big, big, big treat for me to join you again. I would love to, and I'll do it on camera. And I think we should all have ice cream in front of us.
We should 100% do it.
I'll say this because we'll coordinate it. And since my type 2 diabetes diagnosis, the one this ends positive, I promise. My wife got a talent of making homemade ice cream, and the flavor she made was Reese's peanut butter cup. That's right.
Well, you should be on too then. Have her on. Have her.
We'll
on
have them all.
Too.
We'll have all of us on. We'll just eat ice cream. It'll be a blast.
At day's end, it's not this boring vanilla. That's the punchline, Amy.
And then we'll get you guys an ice cream sponsor.
Hey, it could be an ice or a cream sponsor or an ice cream sponsor. We'll take them all.
I like how you're keeping doors open there, Booga.
I mean, this is what you get on Bolt Blitz Uncut. You just don't know. We just have a lot of fun here. I'd like to thank our guests, Fernando Ramirez of the Sporting Tribune, and of course, the one and only Princess of Darkness, Amy Trask. You guys have been listening to Bolt Blitz Uncut here on YouTube, the X platform, and everywhere else you can find us. My name is Booga Peters. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.